It is preview season here on Armchair Analysis, and today we're talking all about the Clemson Tigers. What can they be in 2025? An impressive ACC championship victory last year, even after what was a disappointing year, I think, in a lot of standards. They went to the portal for once and made some different moves. Nothing too crazy in the portal, but they did make some moves, which is a welcome change, I think, for a lot of Clemson fans. This team looks to improve off of last year and maybe take that next step and get back to national championship contention. We'll talk about all that and how they can do so here in today's episode. First off, I just want to say thank you all for the support over the course of preview season. We are now only 3 days away from the end here, as we have Oregon, Notre Dame, and Ohio State to follow this video today. So I just thank you all for all the support. We're trying to hit 200 subscribers by the time we reach the beginning of college football season, or week 0. Let's make that happen. I think we can certainly get there, and I certainly appreciate the support over the course of the last couple of months. It's going to be a lot of fun this college football season. We got college football content year-round, really, and it's just going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited for it. I hope you guys will stick around and tune in to the rest of what we got going here. With that said, let's go ahead and talk about this Clemson team. And last year they were 10-4, 7-1 in ACC play. They were the ACC champions, beating SMU in the SMU game, or in Charlotte in the title game. Team averaged 34.7 points per game. That was 18th in college football. They gave up 23.4 points per game, which was 51st in college football. They had a turnover margin of plus 1.2. That was 3rd in the sport. 26th ranked recruiting class and an 81st ranked portal class with 4 commitments from the portal, which is still 4 more than usual. Dabo Swinney returns once again for another year at the helm of this program. Garrett Riley returns to lead this offense again. The big change, Tom Allen comes in to take over the defensive coordinator duties, and that is where I think the biggest change is going to be noticed and the biggest difference is going to be made for this team. We'll explain a little bit more. They made their biggest transfer portal move was Will Help. We'll talk about what he can add to this already stout defensive line and how this defense looks to be a little bit different this year. Looking at this offense, though, they have 8 returning starters, including 4 or 5 offensive linemen, which is a huge deal for any team to return that many of their offensive line, which was graded pretty well. I mean, right around the top half of the Power 4 with a 70.4 grade in pass block and a 60.5 grade or 64.5 grade in run blocking. This offense is led by Cade Klubnik, and of course he's going to be the guy that they trust. His athletic ability to not only be able to throw the ball and place it well, he's also able to run the football, and he does a really good job of that. He's one of my favorite quarterbacks in the sport. I was really high on him a couple years ago to win the Heisman. That's what I predicted, was him to win the Heisman in 2023. It didn't happen. He looked scared. He didn't look composed. Lost his confidence throughout the course of that year. Last year, reined it in and really stepped up and became the player that they needed him to be at quarterback. And I think going into 2025, he should be a Heisman candidate going into this year. And I think that maybe I was a little early, but I think that it could certainly be a welcome sight for the Clemson fans. At running back, you got Adam Randall and Gideon Davidson, who is a true freshman who they're expecting to play a lot, if not be the starter, come week 1. I think that I would say he'll likely be the starter based on things I've seen and read. But again, I don't have the inside information, and I just go off of gut feelings and what I think is going to happen when it comes to predicting who's going to start and who is listed. And I kind of go off of some depth charts that you see posted around, but right now I think it's Gideon Davidson as the starting running back. Adam Randall, both these guys, though, I think they'll be a pretty solid pair in the backfield. At wide receiver, you got 3 returning starters, Antonio Williams, Bryant Wesco, and TJ Moore. They're excited for all 3 of them. They also have Cole Turner coming back. They've got a lot of guys that they really like at the receiver position, but I think Bryant Wesco is the guy, the standout player on this offense who's really going to take that next step this year. Antonio Williams, we've seen over the course of the last few years that those high points, the ability to make big plays and be that physical receiver that he was expected to be. I don't really see that changing. I think Antonio Williams is who we've seen so far. Bryant Wesco is a guy that I think can take steps forward still and really create problems for defenses. At tight end, they got Olsen, Pat Henry. we'll see how that goes because, look, they are certainly looking for that next Jake Brenningstool. They're looking for that next guy that can come out and be a really good player from that tight end position. They don't know exactly what they have. I can trust that it's probably going to happen because we've seen it time and time again. They trot out a new tight end that ends up being pretty solid or at least good enough to make plays for them. I think we're looking for that once again here in 2025. This offense is just going to be, I think, stout all around. I think they're going to be one of the best in the country. I would probably early on rate them as maybe a team that'll sit somewhere in the top 10 in a lot of categories. I don't think they're going to be the best, but I think they will certainly do enough. Pair that up with this defense. I think Tom Allen's really going to work to improve this year. They were aggressive last year. 30 turnover opportunities, 16 interceptions, 14 forced fumbles. I think those numbers are still going to continue to rise. That's a Tom Allen special to be aggressive. But it's a smart aggression. It's just a very kind of intentional approach to how they like to bring pressure, create those turnover opportunities. They returned 6 starters from last year's team. Of course, the majority, or a few of them upon that defensive line. DJ Parker comes back. Really excited for what he's able to bring to this team. They also bring back Wade Woodaz at the linebacker position. He's going to be a guy that, just with the amount of experience that he brings to the table, they're really excited to see what he does. They bring in, again, Will Helt from Purdue. He's going to be on the defensive line, paired up with I'm getting it confused, and I just want to make sure I get it right. So I'm taking a look at this roster here, and paired up with TJ Parker on the edge, and then Peter Woods on the interior of the defensive line. They've done some experimenting with Peter Woods, and I don't know. I ranked him as a top 10 defensive end because that's a position that he was listed as. But he is a guy who has kind of gone back and forth. I think they let him just beef back up and play in the middle. They let that experiment kind of fade out, especially with the addition of Will Helt. So that's my expectation, is that Peter Woods just stays on the interior and really plays that anchor piece as a defensive tackle. They're excited about, of course, Wade Woodaz, Sammy Brown at linebacker as well. And then they got Avion Terrell coming back in the secondary, who they are excited to have coming back. Khalil Barnes also, he had 4 interceptions last year. That led the team. He's going to be back at safety. They really have a lot of solid pieces around this defense, and I think they're going to jump back into the top 15, if not the top 10 in college football on the defensive side of the ball. This team allowed 5.3 yards per play last year. I think that number is going to drop below 5, probably into like the 4-5 range. Leaders last year, Wade Woodaz led the team in tackles, 53 of them. TJ Parker had 20 tackles for loss and 11 sacks last year. That led the team. He also had 6 forced fumbles last year. By far led the team. And then Khalil Barnes, again, as mentioned, had 4 interceptions. Players to watch, or names to watch, my biggest one is Gideon Davidson. I cannot wait to see this kid get on the field and what he's able to do for the Tigers offense. I think he is a player who will bring a very dynamic approach to this offense. And, I don't know. I think he brings like the Travis Etienne style of play. At least that's what I've heard and what I've been told. And I can definitely see it based off of high school film. But high school to college is still a big jump, and playing as a true freshman is going to be interesting. It's going to be fun to watch what he's able to do. I have a lot of hope for him. I'm really hyped about this Clemson team, which, as somebody who pulls for South Carolina outside of this show, it kind of hurts to an extent. But it's fun to watch because this is a team that has, I just like watching good football, to be honest. And this is a team that I think is going to bring a really fun brand of football. A really good brand of football. This is a competitive team for my preseason number 1 ranking. That's how good I believe this team is. I know a lot of people have them at 5, 6, 7. I think the coaches poll had them at 6. I have this team in the top 3 at minimum, and they are very likely. They are a heavy favorite to be my number 1 team. I don't think there's anybody that I'm considering to be up there in that regard. So that is just where I stand on this team right now. I think they are one of the best, if not the best teams in the sport going into the year. At least they're one of the most proven in terms of returning talent, returning production, and the skill positions on offense are certainly proven. Minus just that one running back position, which they've seemed to manage to fill year in and year out, really. When it comes to the schedule, it is certainly a schedule that they can work around. It starts with that home game against LSU in week 1. That's going to be a big deal. But beyond that, they really do have a workable schedule. I mean, at North Carolina, at Georgia Tech are going to be tough. At Louisville on a Friday night is going to be a tough game. Boston College can even be a tough one for that matter. And then that road trip against South Carolina, I think that game coming after Furman is a big help. Duke's going to be tough, but they host Duke. They host Syracuse, who could be a little bit tougher. I think that they just get games at the right time. At Georgia Tech early in the year, before they really hit their stride. It seems like Georgia Tech starts slow and then closes out the year well. North Carolina, we don't really know what they're going to be. I mean, we know what we can expect. We know what we see on paper. What are they truly going to look like? That is a question I don't know. So with that said, let's go ahead and predict 12 games here for the Clemson Tigers. Keep it in mind, this team's over-under sits at 9.5. They're also in the ACC, are the best at plus 110, and they are, I think, 6th in national championship odds at plus 1,100. So let's go ahead and predict this thing. It's going to start with that week 1 matchup against LSU, and I've been this way from the very beginning. I think that this game, just being in Clemson versus being down there in Baton Rouge, plays a big enough difference in its own right, but I think that this Clemson defense is going to really show out at home in this game. It might be low scoring. It might be a first team to 20 wins type of game, but I'm taking Clemson to get the job done and start the year off right with a win. They'll beat Troy going 2-0 on the road to Bobby Dodd Stadium against Georgia Tech, where I believe they are going to get the job done there as well. They'll beat Georgia Tech. It's going to be a tougher game. That's going to be one of their early upset potential games. But I think that just simply the maturity of Cade Klubnik, what we saw from him over the course of last year, is going to kind of show up a lot more and really lead this team through a lot of difficult situations. This Georgia Tech team, their defense is kind of the question mark going into the year. I think that Clemson's going to find a way to kind of expose that and move forward. They'll be 3-0. They'll get a win at home against Syracuse. I just think that game being in Clemson is going to be kind of the pusher to not even really say that game will be, I won't say it's not competitive, but I think that we're talking about that's really Steve Angeli's first true road test. They play Tennessee early in the year, but that's a neutral site game. This is a tougher environment to go into, going down to Death Valley. You get a bye week before you play North Carolina on the road, and I think that bye week helps them get the job done. They'll win this game simply because I think they are the better team. I think they'll play a really good brand of football in this one. It's going to be fun to watch Gio Lopez and how he can play against this Clemson defense, how he can address the pass rush and help with the offensive line. Kind of offset the pass rush with quicker passes, which he's kind of been known for over his time at South Alabama. That'll be an interesting matchup, but again, I'm buying in the Clemson a little bit more there. They'll beat Boston College on the road. That'll be a fun matchup, though, going to Chestnut Hill, having a chance. Boston College having a chance for an upset after what could be either an emotional win or a tough loss. But I think they'll get the job done there. They'll play SMU, this one at home. I think they'll get the job done with that, too. It's just, again, being the better team, I think SMU's kind of coming back down to earth this year. Not that they're going to be bad, but they're just not going to be as good. They don't have that schedule that really propels them and helps them get to Charlotte the way it did last year. They'll beat Duke at home. I think it's a similar storyline here. It's, Duke's good. I like Darian Mensah. Kind of similar to Gio Lopez. Can Darian Mensah make enough plays to keep them in the game? If he does, it'll be a great game. I mean, but at the same time, this one, again, home field advantage. They're going to be able to play a really good game, and I think they're just better. I don't really see them losing games they're not supposed to lose. Saying that, I think the same thing with Florida State. They're going to win that one as well. Going into this Friday night game on the road against Louisville, this is the first game that I've really gone back and forth with because, as we all know, in 2025, it is really difficult to go undefeated in this sport. And I'm not saying they will go undefeated winning this game because they still have that road trip to South Carolina. And there's other games earlier in the schedule that they could certainly lose any given Saturday. But at this point, with the prediction that I'm giving, This is the chance right here. This is the first game where I feel like, okay, Louisville can really get the job done. I love Jeff Brahman. I love what he's done. Miller Moss is going to be a fun guy to watch in his offense. Colin Lacey is going to be a lot of fun. And I think watching Avion Terrell versus Colin Lacey is going to be a fun matchup in this game. This is the first real shot, I think, that Clemson has to lose in conference play. LSU is a different story. In conference play, this is the first game that I think is more than a 40% chance, more or worse odds than 60-40, Clemson favorite. With that said, I'm still picking Clemson to win on the road, but this is going to be a game that comes down to the wire, and I think it is going to certainly prove Louisville's legitimacy as well as proving what Clemson has to bring to the table. They'll move on to 10-0, and they'll be 11-0. They're going to beat Furman, no questions asked, leaving us with this game against South Carolina in Williams-Brice Stadium. This is going to be a fun game. This is going to come down to who plays better on defense, because we know these are two offenses that are going to be potent. They're going to be dynamic. They're going to create a lot of big plays, and there's two quarterbacks who can do damn near anything they want on a football field as of the last year. With that said, I'm taking the team that I just trust better on defense, and I'm trusting the defensive line of Clemson to be able to create some issues for the South Carolina offensive line, which has been a weak point for the last couple of years. That O-line has just had their moments. This is going to be one of those games where I think they have a moment. Clemson's going to get the job done. Another close game. They will play a handful of those this year. But at the end of the day, they're going to walk out of here, based on what I'm saying. Again, this is just one man's opinion. I think Clemson is the most likely team to go 12-0 this year. And I'm predicting them to do just that. 12-0, 8-0 in conference play. I think the floor sits at 10 wins. I think that's kind of where they are. Maybe 9. Maybe 9 again. But I think that they are just better. I think they've improved a lot. And again, utilizing the portal, getting Will Help out of Purdue to come down there and pair up along with TJ Parker on the edge. And then Peter Woods up the middle. That is a very dynamic trio on the defensive line that can create a lot of attention and gain a lot of attention. And then it opens up for like DeMonte Capehart, the defensive tackle, to be able to step in and even make some plays himself. This is going to be a really fun team brand of football. This is going to be a group, especially defensively, who work together so well. They're going to be a lot of fun to watch. I got 12-0, and I'm standing to that. It takes a lot for me to be convinced on 12 wins. It truly does. And this is a team that I think can really work their way through it. If they beat LSU and they look good the rest of the way, again, it's the last two P4 games, the Louisville and South Carolina game, are the two that I think are most likely that they could lose after week 1. It's going to be a fun year. Let me know what I may have missed or what you guys think, how I could be maybe off base. I'd love to hear all that feedback down below. But again, Clemson 12-0 in the regular season is my prediction. Of course, that'll put them in Charlotte. I don't know who I have them playing yet. I know Miami is a team I had a lot of hope in, or a lot of thoughts, good things to say about. Louisville too. So we'll see what we end up having. As for the ACC title game prediction, we'll have the ACC coming up here later next week, in 2 weeks. But make sure you stick around. Again, we're trying to hit 200 subscribers by the time week 0 comes around. And that would include getting to, gaining from where we're at right now is 164. Week 0 is August 23rd. I think we can do it. Again, if you're new around here, just leave a like, subscribe, comment down below. Let me know your guys' thoughts on Clemson this year. Tomorrow, you guys are going to see the Oregon Ducks season preview. I'm excited for that one. That's a really fun team, I think, going into this year with a few question marks, but they're a fun team looking to figure out how they're going to replace the production that they lost last year. And then, of course, we have Notre Dame and Ohio State, the 2 national championship teams from last year that will also find their way into the final 2 days of the previews. So we're almost done with preview season, and then we carry on with the conference previews themselves. Make sure you stick around. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Hope you all enjoyed. And we'll see you guys again tomorrow with the Oregon Ducks season preview.